everybody. Welcome to the OnStage Black Theater podcast. And we are really excited today. I would give this introduction, and I am Beck Pentameter, but I am not that talented. But today we are talking about Shakespeare, and in particular, the Utah Shakespeare Festival. It's a Tony Award-winning Shakespeare Festival, one of the top in the world. And Jacqueline and I had the great opportunity to go and spend a whole long weekend there and got to see almost everything that they're offering this year at the festival. And it was super fun, and can't wait to tell you all about it. And I am theater critic Rachel Wagner, and Jacqueline Collier is here.
Yes, I'm so excited for this episode because this was one of the most fun weekends I've ever had. I was just running around everywhere having the best time. And a big part of the reason why I had an amazing time was because of Elena, who is our guest today.
So we have a very special guest with us today. We have actress and your position is Grove Manager, is that correct? Behind there at the festival?
Seminar Grove Manager, but essentially I'm sort of like an educational dramaturgy assistant is the way that I like to describe it for folks who don't get what's happening at the festival or you haven't had a chance to visit.
So Elena Mellon, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Of course. I'm so excited to be on. Thank you for having me.
So this is your first time on the podcast. So why don't you introduce yourself, tell the listeners a little bit about your history. Your mother performed in the festival, is that correct?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. I would love to. So my name's Elena Mellon. I have been working within the education department at the festival for the last 3 years. This is my second year as an external understudy, meaning I'm not in the primary cast of the festival, but I am covering a bunch of different tracks to step in should anything happen to any of the actors. So I wear a lot of different hats, and I love that I get to do all that. But I go way back with the festival. My mother was an actor, and there were a few years where when she was cast, they would bring our whole family down. And we had the fun opportunity to be in shows with her. So her name's Kimberly Mellon. She one year was Lady Macbeth in the Scottish play, and I was a little Macduff child who got murdered on stage every night. I loved it. And then she was a Titania and Hippolyta in A Midsummer Night's Dream, and I was a little fairy. My brother was the changeling child. So even though I'm not from here originally, I'm Chicago based, but I have so much affection and affinity for this festival.
Yeah, so it's always kind of been a part of your life.
Yeah, definitely. My name Elena comes from my mother was playing Helena in A Midsummer Night's Dream, and when she was pregnant with me, and the names have like the same root, the same name meaning and things. So literally since the womb, I guess.
Oh, I love that. That's really, really fun that it stems from. So she was pregnant with you and she's playing Helena?
Yeah.
Now, did you talk to any of the Macduff kids this year being like, hey, this is a long line of talented kids?
Yeah, we're tight. Benny and Jacob are amazing, and they look like they're having as much fun as I did. A fun fact is that in the rehearsal process, we kept having to get the littlest guy to stop smiling after he died. He would just like flop down onto the stage and be like smiling and giggling a little bit. And we're like, all right, so you're dead. But they love it. And I love it.
He's just having such a good time. You can't help it. That's funny. Now, I've been to the festival many, many times, but the first time I remember going was, I think, 1991. My dad took me, and I loved it. And I really, especially as a little kid, I really valued anything that I thought was grown up. I didn't like things that were a lot of times made for kids, and that wasn't for me. And so I remember being so excited going to Fantasia, the re-release that they had of Fantasia, because that was like a grown-up movie in my eyes. It's like, ooh. And and that was the same way with the Shakespeare Festival. And I remember we saw Blithe Spirit. They did that year, and then they did Merchant of Venice. Those were the two that I remember. We saw more than that, but that definitely made an impression. And I give my dad a lot of credit for having the confidence that I could that I could do it and that I could understand it and be entertained and everything. Because we went several years in a row, just me and my dad. So it's a lot of good memories. And I've been many times over the years, and it's always a really great experience. Just the atmosphere and the quality of the acting and the variety of both Shakespeare and non-Shakespeare that they do is really fun. And this year was extra special because I was part of the Utah Theater Lovers group, but also obviously because Jax was there. And Jax, this was your first time at the festival. Had you done Shakespeare Festival like this before? Or was it kind of a new experience?
No, never. First of all, Rachel, I just love how your dad made a little theater critic out of you.
Yeah.
Adorable.
Start him young.
It's his fault. It's his fault. Blame him.
So cute. No, I've never done a Shakespeare festival like this before. A good friend of mine, Tracy Thomason, you might know her, Elena. She worked at the festival, I think, 2 years ago. And I have my MFA in acting, and a lot of my friends had auditioned for Utah before. Utah has a great reputation. And the head of my program at the University of Houston loves the Utah Shakespeare Festival. So I was like, oh my gosh, I have to go. I'm so excited. Of course, I wanted to go and hang out with Rachel. And the Utah Theater Lovers, I got to meet some of them when they came on a trip to New York City where I live. And I was just like, oh my gosh, everyone is so excited to get to talk about the plays. They want to debrief after. A lot of times I go to see shows of my own, which I love, but I thought this would be a really fun experience to get so much theater packed into one weekend. And even though, it's the Utah Shakespeare Festival, the fact that there's other offerings, I love Shakespeare, but I also love new works, which we had with Words Cubed, and musicals. I think it was really exciting that there's so much to see and so much to do there. So I had a blast.
These people that we went with, they out theatered me, which takes something. It was impressive. Because not only do we have the two shows, but there were the workshops and then the behind the scenes, the takedowns and other, activities that you could go to that were part of it. Plus, like you said, Words Cubed, which was an additional table read, right? Was it a table read or was it actually a performance?
Yeah, a little staged reading. That's part of our new work series, which we're really happy about.
Yeah, and then after all of that, we would come back and they would want to have this long debriefing. I was just like, you guys are amazing. Because I was exhausted. So
they really went deep with the debriefs. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm really getting it all here.
But you don't have to be from Utah to participate in Utah Theater Lovers. They have a very active Facebook group. That's the main avenue for, but there's also a Meetup. You can go on there and follow them there. And they used to have monthly activities or even more than that, but they've been a little bit on hiatus as far as those. But there's just always a good discussion happening on the Facebook group, and anybody can join. And then they have at least 2 trips that anybody can participate in that wants to, and you can get a good deal, especially for what you're getting, because then you can be a part of the group. And in April, they have their big New York trip, which is, I've only done it once, but it's really fun. And you get into all the big hot ticket shows because they can buy, as a group, and get a better deal on your hotel, all that stuff. Plus they have all the behind the scenes seminars and everything going on. So it's definitely well planned, well executed. It's good. It's a lot of fun. The men and women are really, really friendly and super nice. And it was a good diverse group, lots of different personalities, lots of different opinions, all respected. So anyway, it was just everything I've ever done with them has been really positive, really fun. So if you are looking for a theater family, then it would be a pretty good choice, I think.
Yeah, sign me up. My goodness.
Yeah. I know, man. If I could go on that New York trip in April, that would be amazing. But yeah.
Rachel needs a sugar daddy to get her here.
It's true. I'm
Or like an angel investor.
ready to be a lady of leisure.
James Jackman's perfect.
Yeah, exactly. Well, just some backstory about the festival. So it was founded in 1961 by Fred C. Adams. And you, Elena, you probably know a lot about sort of the beginnings of the festival and kind of how it progressed. What can you tell our listeners a little bit about that?
Yeah, so this is our like 64th year of operation. And if you were to go now, you would see this beautiful, gorgeous facility, but that was just built in 2016. That outdoor stage where you guys saw all the Shakespeare shows, the Ingolstadt, the new Southern Utah Museum of Art, the Seminar Grove where we had all our conversation. That is all like brand spanking new. I mean, 2016. So I mean, in a spectrum of things, it's new. But when the festival was started by Fred Adams and his wife, it was literally just folding chairs on a lawn, and they were, well, she wasn't even his wife at the time, his fiance, and they sort of have this philosophy that they'll share at the festival sometimes, that if you love where you are, then you look for reasons to stay, not for reasons to go. And there's something about the community and the connection and the way that it's sort of an in-between point, all these people traveling from one place to the other and visiting nature and wanting a little bit of rest and reprieve, that they were like, you know what if we just had a Shakespeare festival here? And so that first season, they opened it up. They just did 3 little shows and roped in as many members of the community as they possibly could. And it just grew from there. The old Adams Theater was the first theater space that they built, which was for a long time the most accurate replica of the Grove that like existed. When they built the new like the Shakespeare's Globe in London, folks like came to the Utah Shakespeare Festival Grove, like not Grove, sorry, Globe.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when they were building that London Globe, they came to the Utah Shakespeare Festival Globe to get some references and see like what would this look like, how would the acoustics work and all that jazz. So I love that little stage. It's very sentimental to me. And we still use it for education stuff and whatnot. But.
Oh yeah. Yeah, because it wasn't always the Ingolstadt Jacks. There's a whole nother theater called the Adams that was smaller that they used to do the performances on. And then they built the bigger one. You said in 2016?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
And that was also when they built our little black box space, the Ames Theater. The Randall was built in sometime in between then. I think in the 70s, I want to say. I don't know, fact check me on that. But yeah, so it's really had quite the evolution. And of course, COVID was hard for the festival like it was for all theaters, but I think we're doing a good job coming back, particularly because of our audience members who are just so loving and loyal and invested.
So, Jax, you're a professional actress. Like, how did you feel about the quality of the productions in general, but particularly the acting, the performances, the directing, all that, those kind of aspects? What you saw?
I mean, I was really blown away. Like, I had pretty high expectations, and I would say it exceeded my expectations. I had done Importance of Being Earnest and As You Like It before. So I'm really familiar with those shows. And it was so cool to see As You Like It, because I loved I did As You Like It in grad school, and we had an amazing Rosalind. And I played Celia, but watching this Celia and Rosalind, I was like, oh my gosh, this Celia is so amazing. She's getting so many jokes that I missed. I was like, I wish I would have seen this before I did it. And it was really, I thought what was interesting too about this As You Like It, that not only the production that I did, but that I think gets missed in other productions with Jaques, is that the melancholy can sometimes be played only for laughs. And I really was so deeply affected by Cassie's portrayal of Jaques, because that melancholy, I was like, well, of course she's melancholy. Look at what the world is. And then at the end, I loved how usually Rosalind delivers the final monologue to the audience, but it was Jaques, and I thought it was so powerful and so interesting. So what I found very cool about all the shows in the festival was that I feel like it's still kept the integrity of, if you're like a purist when it comes to Shakespeare, I think that you could definitely be on board with the work that you see there. But also, if you want a little bit more accessibility and things that are still like, oh, that's new and fun, like it marries the two perfectly for me. And I just loved getting to go to Words Cubed. I could talk about that all day long. I wish I could go to like 8 of those in the weekend. I was like, I want to do this all day long. So yeah, I was very not only impressed with like the quality of the direction and the productions, but then with the way the entire festival was run, that we had a lot of access to the actors, to the dramaturgs, so that we could get a really nice peek behind the scenes and some insight onto how it all comes together. So I was just like in heaven. I cried when I became a junior bard. Like I was like, someone's got to get me home because this is like too emotional. I got home, I was telling my fiance about becoming a junior bard. He's like, oh my gosh. Oh
She
my
was
God.
sworn in. There was an
Got
oath.
sworn in. Got sworn in.
You
Elena
did
did it.
still?
Yeah. So yeah, I was on cloud nine all weekend. It was like such a natural high. I actually, when I came home, I kind of crashed. I was in a bad mood for like 24 hours because I was like,
Yeah, yeah. Well, Lena, since you understudy for all these roles, you must have a unique perspective, plus getting to do all the seminars and seeing, and from that perspective of the whole festival, what they're doing there.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of my favorite things about the position I'm in is because I work really closely with Dr. Isabel Smith Bernstein, our amazing seminar director, and our dramaturg for all of those outdoor shows, all the Shakespeare shows. And while she's in the Shakespeare shows, it's a little hard for her to hop on over to some of the indoor shows. So I sit in on a lot of rehearsals, which I love. So both for the indoor shows, and then when I understudy the outdoor shows, I try to go to as many of those rehearsals as I can as well. And I don't know, something that I've observed just in my like past 3 years working here and all these different facets is one thing that I think makes the festival really unique that you touched on, Jackie Flynn, is the sense of community. And both between like the different actors and the directors, it's a very communicative and close-knit group. These people are here for so long on these contracts. We're all living in close proximity to each other. You see them all the time. So they really do a good job of curating a ensemble of people who are just brilliant and so fun to work with and learn from. I feel like every single person I've talked to, an actor who I watch in performance, I'm like, oh, that's so good. I'm taking that nugget. And like, oh my gosh, I love the way they thought about that. And so that's such a joy. And then the audience members as well are very invested and inquisitive. And so many of them have been coming for years and years and have brought multiple generations, which you don't get as often. I'm from Chicago and I love Chicago theater and I love city theater and the newness of that, but you don't have that same like multi-generational community investment in the same way. I think that's really interesting and makes people care just a lot more in what's happening, not just on stage, but behind the scenes.
Well, one thing I noticed in almost every meeting with the actors that we had, almost all of them had done it multiple years. And I think that says something to the quality of the experience, because it's like in the kind of in the middle of nowhere. And to get that many people to not only come for a long run, like you said, to be part of the repertory company, but to come multiple times, like
Yeah.
that says a lot, I think. A lot.
Yeah.
And that it is something, and I think I agree with what you're saying about the audience too, because that I was always impressed when that you don't have a ton of people leaving midway or leaving early. like you might in
That's good.
other productions. In particular, I remember it was about 2 years ago, I think, that I was there for Midsummer's Night's Dream, and it was a torrential downpour. I mean, not just a light, like sheets of rain. Like, and not only did they just keep going, like the actors, which I thought was incredible, but everybody stayed. Like the audience didn't leave. I was like, wow, that's pretty cool. And it was
Oh, I
just
love
mostly the
that.
mechanicals, stuff, which doesn't really do anything for the story. It's like, but they just, we were there, we were locked in, we were going. I thought that was incredible. It was very memorable.
That's why I guess Utah theater lovers gave us a bag with a poncho. Because they're
Yes.
like, you're not going home. They're like, you will use that poncho.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I thought it would be fun to just talk a little bit about Shakespeare in general. And we thought we could talk about just what is our favorite Shakespeare play in general. And then I have some stats and some different things. But Jax, what about you? What is your favorite Shakespeare play?
It's so hard.
Mhm.
It changes a lot. My current favorites, and have been for like the last year and a half, Macbeth, which we got to see. That was an incredible production, and Twelfth Night, which we'll get to see next year. I also
Mhm.
really love Hamlet. I mean, there's just so many good ones, but I would say and King Lear. Okay, I'll stop there. But yes, I would say those are my four favorites.
I
What
think
about
my favorite is Much Ado About Nothing. I just think it's so funny, and it goes by the quickest for me. And last year the production was outstanding. I loved it so much. I saw it twice. I bought an extra ticket because we didn't have two every day like they did this year. There was some more open time. So I actually bought a second ticket and I went and saw it again because I liked it so much. It
Oh, I
was
love
so
that. That
good.
was a really fun production. I understudied Ursula and a couple of the Watch. So if you remember seeing it last year, there's the dude who like is so freaking tall. I
Yes.
understudied him, little old me. And the last week, like COVID swept through the cast. And so
Oh
I had to go on three
no.
nights. And the first night it was a real ripple effect. So he had to go into a different role. And I jumped into his role. And all the bits were about how tall he is. Like every single
no?
little like bit is about. So we were like, okay, how are we gonna do this? And they're like, well, you're so short, so we'll just like make it ironic. So I'd be like, oh gosh, like up in Dogberry's face, and he'd like try and look above the eye line, and then have to look down at me, and it was so silly. And then our hero got sick, and so Ursula had to jump in. I'm sorry, it was our Margaret. Our Margaret got sick, our Ursula had to jump in, and I had to jump into Ursula. But we still had one of the dudes sick, so I was splitting track between Ursula and the Watch. And then the third night, the Watch dude was better, and so I was just Ursula, and it was insane. I
Do
was
you feel like that
drowning in
was
his coat. It was hilarious.
was that the craziest understudying experience you've had, or what has been the most challenging?
Yes, yes. Especially that like second night where I was splitting the tracks and like running back and forth between and changing wigs and like oh my gosh, yeah.
Wow. That's crazy. The moment I thought the moat was the most brilliant in that Much Ado About Nothing was I think they call it the culling scenes, the eavesdropping scenes.
Yeah, the
And
bowling scenes.
Goling, yeah. And in that scene, when Benedict is eavesdropping and he hears the setup, the director decided to have him stick his foot in a bucket in a pail, and then he got his foot stuck in the pail. So the whole time that he's there, it's already a hilarious scene just on the page. It's hilarious. But it added so much humor that he's dragging around this pail, and I was dying. It was so brilliant. And the Walter Koenig, the actor, he is so good, and he really sold. I think he was great as Macbeth, but I really love him in comedies. He has very good comedic timing.
I
And
love that even his Macbeth has elements of that
yeah,
like
you're right. Yeah,
brackish.
that's a good.
Macbeth's he's a funny guy sometimes.
Yeah.
In a very dark way. But yeah, that we called that our bucketography, and not a single seminar went by where someone did not ask or comment on that. It was very popular.
It was so great. I just, what a brilliant, it's so hard to make something that's so well known fresh. And I just thought that little choice was really smart. It was very impressive.
Yeah,
Um,
I think that was something that was so impressive throughout the festival. Is that I really did feel like even though I've either done these shows or worked on these scenes or seen these shows multiple times, with the exception of Antony and Cleopatra, um, I was like hearing things for the first time and understanding them in whole new ways. And even the relationship between Lady M and Macbeth, it wasn't just that they were these like mustache twirling villains or like, oh, it was like, oh no, you can see how they fell in love. You can see how they've had this pain, suffering, trauma. And you can imagine all the humor they've had in their relationship too, because you get to see little bits of that. And I just thought it was, I mean, so brilliantly crafted. The actors, the direction, just the whole production, where that relationship popped in a whole different way to me than it has before.
yeah. Yeah, I agree. There were a lot of I think all of the shows that we saw were well directed, and I think they made the best they could out of the material that they had for the most part. There were little nitpicks here and there, but overall there was always an attempt to try to make things entertaining and new, fresh, which I appreciate.
I love that. Yeah, one of the like biggest priorities I heard directors talking about in the room and stuff, and a lot of this I know because I work really closely with Dr. Isabel Smith Bernstein, the dramaturg, but they work really hard as they're curating the cuts of the Shakespeare. And I think that's where a lot of the really strong storytelling and I don't newness and freshness comes from is that sort of I think we don't realize how much of that background work happens before anyone steps foot into the rehearsal room. And they were very intentional this year. Like we were doing Antony and Cleopatra. We know this is a lot of first people's exposure to this story, and it's a weird one, guys.
It's weird. It's
It is
weird.
a weird play. It's you're sort of like Shakespeare. What are you doing?
It kind of felt to me like Shakespeare's attempt to write a Harlequin novel.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, we always
Yeah.
joke that it's like Shakespeare's screenplay. Like he jumps locations so much. There are like 66 characters in the OG script, all sorts of scenes that aren't even terribly labeled. It seems like people can just levitate between Rome and Egypt on like a dime. It is so convoluted. And one of our like the director Carolyn Howarth and Isabel worked so hard to figure out okay, what is the core of the story that we need and how can we tell this as clearly as cleanly without losing the depth and nuance of the characters. And I don't know, yeah, it just impresses me so much because like there are some things that still will sometimes confuse me a little bit or I'll catch and be like I have a question about that and I'll try and go back to read the full script or like the folio or something and I'm like I think I'm more confused now.
The only
Because
part that confused me was I didn't understand the break of Act One. I thought it was a wedding, so I was confused. And I guess it was just a coronation.
it's
And
both, so you're not wrong. We jokingly call it the marination because it's this sort of wedding coronation hybrid where
yeah,
there's this passing on of authority and legitimizing of the relationship as we enter this new like political system that's much more Antony v. Octavius instead of the nice pretty triumvirate, which was never really that pretty.
yeah.
So
Anthony playing the field. That's what he's
yeah,
got.
truly.
Well, real quick, before we dive into more about the productions we saw, I just thought it would be fun to talk about what are the most read and the most performed Shakespeare. And this is just according to the internet, so take it with a grain of salt. But what would be your guess, Jax, is most read and most performed?
Ooh, okay. I'm gonna go with most read feels like maybe Romeo and Juliet because of all the high schools or Midsummer, and I think Midsummer the most performed.
Yeah. What would be
My
your
guess.
guess, Elena? Did you say the same?
Mm, I'd also add Hamlet to that mix.
Mm.
Um, yeah, that's a good, yeah. I know at least in terms of history at the festival, it's like Midsummer, Hamlet, Romeo and Juliet, and then unfortunately, not well, I won't say unfortunately, but our audiences really like Taming of the Shrew, but I hope that's not the most universally.
So the most
I have
read is actually Romeo and Juliet. It's
okay.
yeah. I mean, probably partly because
Well,
everybody reads it in high school. At
but
least
actually, to Elena's point, I think a lot of people, I also read Hamlet in high school. And we didn't read a lot of plays. It was Romeo and Juliet and Hamlet, though. That's what we did.
so the top five are Romeo and Juliet, Macbeth, Midsummer's Night Dream, Hamlet, and Merchant of Venice. Those are the top five.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
Okay.
then
Yeah.
here's interesting because the most performed is in the United States, and most performed is Midsummer Night Dream, Romeo and Juliet, Twelfth Night, Hamlet, and Taming of the Shrew is the most
Oh,
performed in the US.
What I tell ya.
And then here's interesting. So the most performed non-US is Midsummer's Night's Dream, Hamlet, King Lear, As You Like It, and Taming of the Shrew. And Romeo and Juliet does not make the top 10 non-US, but it's number 2 in the US, which I thought was kind of interesting.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
Yeah. The
I love it.
yeah, they have Comedy of Errors and Othello on the non-US list, and that's not on the US list, which is interesting. And then on the US list, they have Romeo and Juliet and Julius Caesar. So those are two that aren't on the non-US list. So
We read
yeah.
Julius Caesar in my English class, which I dug. And Othello,
Yeah.
that was our other one.
I've never seen Julius Caesar. I'd like to someday. That's a bucket list one for me. And so yeah, that's interesting, I thought. But let's go over what we saw. So we started our experience with The Importance of Being Earnest, and we saw 6 out of the 7 productions plus then the Green Show. So it was 8 total if you count that. Oh, and then Jack saw the Words Cubed. So Importance of Being Earnest, and I don't love this play. I just think it's kind of boring. It just doesn't make me laugh, so I'm just not that engaged. But I think they did a good job with it. It's just not my favorite. But I was really tired. We had just gone on, I hadn't slept well the night before, and we just had this long drive. And so I was struggling, but that's on me, not on the performers or the production. I kind of wish that I'd had at least a morning to kind of rest a little bit. Because really for both, by the time we got to Macbeth, I was so overheated and just not feeling well that I didn't enjoy it as much as I should have. And again, that's on me. But it is what it is. So Importance of Venus was not my favorite, but it's just not my favorite play. So but
You're not alone in that. Bernard Shaw also hated it, a contemporary.
Oh, did he?
A play about nothing. So, and they were best friends, so that's okay.
It's just not my sense of humor. I just don't think it's that funny, and so I'm just kind of like, but Jax, you enjoyed it a lot more than me.
I love Ernest. It's a play I really enjoy. I did Importance of Being Earnest in college, and we did a gender reversed version, which was interesting because I really wanted to play Cecily. As I mean, Elena, you're like, okay, Cecily's like this dream role, and I ended up playing Algernon, which was its own kind of thing. But honestly, to me, Cecily is what makes this play. So Act 2, and usually it's 3 acts, but in this one it's broken up into 1 and 2. Act 1 for me, I thought it was definitely serviceable. It was still funny. The chemistry was really great. But it wasn't until the arrival of Cecily in Act 2 where I was like, oh yes, this is Ernest. And then Gwendolyn and Cecily at the table when they're having their scene together. Like really for me, it's the relationships of the women in this play that I find the most exciting. Of course, Lady Bracknell too. So that's where it really took off for me. Elena, has Cecily always been like a bucket list role for you?
Yes. Oh my gosh, she's so fun. One thing, someone said this in the Grove once, and I'm like, that's brilliant, is they said that the men are very witty and the women are very sharp in this play. And
Hmm.
I think that's so apt because the women are the ones who like the men are sort of the protagonists, but the women are the ones who are actually driving the action and making the stuff happen. Cecily has this whole like crazy narrative in her head. Like she has been manifesting Ernest and he makes it work. She's just so fun. She's my like favorite little Delulu queen. I love her.
Oh, she really is a Delulu queen, and
But it
it's
works.
so charming. It's so charming.
Those
Yep.
costumes were the most impressive part about this. The puffy sleeves. Anne Shirley would have loved those sleeves. They were
Yes.
so
Oh my
big.
God.
Yeah.
They
Uh,
are fantastic. Yeah, the costume is gorgeous.
yeah. So then we saw Macbeth, and the interesting thing about this production of Macbeth is they made a choice to have more weird sisters than I have ever seen before, and I'm no expert on it, but I think there were five, right?
Oh,
Five?
are you thinking of Hecate was the manifestation of Hecate was the bird?
Yeah. Okay, so that wasn't a weird sister then.
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
she's kind of like the boss. Hecate
Okay.
is she's in that original script. She's just almost always cut in most productions because she's hard to know what to
Mm,
do. But the text is written by Middleton, which is another reason people often cut it because it kind of feels a little funky sometimes. But John D'Antonio, the director, had this really clear vision where he sort of wanted us to have a little bit more understanding about where this prophecy comes from and what the point of it is. So he wanted to keep Hecate within the play. So she's kind of the boss of those three weird sisters.
okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. What do you think of this Macbeth, Jax? How do you feel?
I was like, I was obsessed with this Macbeth. Um, I think that it was really important that I had gone to the seminar at the Grove before because Elena had framed it that the first scene where this play starts out is the Macbeths at the funeral for their son. Now, I think it was directed very well, and while I do think it was clear, I think knowing that ahead of time and being excited about it really framed it for me that I was able to, instead of being like, wait, what's going on? This isn't the beginning of the play. I could just see Lady M in this grief. And it honestly changed the way I looked at the whole play. Um, I've I've seen it several times, worked on scenes from it, have seen people work on scenes from it, and I have not seen anyone do it like these Macbeths did. Like I was really so enveloped in the story and hearing it in a whole new way. And I just had so, I mean, yes, it's a tragedy, but I had so much fun. Like I had a blast.
Elena, what do you think about what makes this production stand out of Macbeth?
Yeah, it makes me like feel excited to hear that it changed your perception of the play a little bit, having that as your introduction to the story. Because I think it did that for me too. Like I've seen a bunch of productions. Macbeth was that was my favorite play as a kid. And the thing I think I love about this one, and it's sparked really interesting conversations in the seminar group, is how it's so much grounded on the relationships. And you have these sort of really clear and beautiful family units. You know, you have the Macbeths, you have the Macduffs. We get a little bit more out of Lady Macduff, and we see a little bit more of the kids. So we like get attached to them as a family. You have Banquo and Fleance. Even the weird sisters like are their own little family
Mhm.
unit in a sense. And so I feel like this time more than before, I almost start to see it as this like the cosmic events are also reflecting these like breakdowns that are happening within the micro emotional family unit
Mhm.
level.
Yeah.
So I don't know, with the Macbeth specifically, like the events around them get worse and worse and worse, but it's so tied into the fact that their relationship is getting more and more strained, and Macbeth stops talking to Lady Macbeth, and they start as this. Honestly, like I love them as a couple. You like almost kind of root for them, right? I don't know, like you see
Yeah.
where they're coming from at least in the beginning, and they have such a strong relationship. He calls her, my dearest partner in grace in my dearest partner in greatness, and I swoon. I don't know. And
I
then
feel like he
stops
tells her about the prophecy right away.
yeah. And they make these
Yeah.
decisions together. Maybe they're not the best decisions, but they are partners in them. And then that he slowly starts taking all that on himself and cutting her out and making these decisions without her. And I think like almost more than anything, that's part of what drives them both to madness. And I feel like that wasn't something I'd really paid as much attention to before, but is now
Yeah.
one of my favorite things when I look at the script.
It's interesting because all three of the outdoor the Shakespeare plays all felt kind of had that like a little bit of a rock and roll energy to me, and no more true than in this Macbeth, especially that crazy the how would you call it the high
Beckett,
gate what do you yeah,
Beckett.
that bird thing was very, you could have seen like a rock star like start
It
to
was
sing,
incredible.
it was that kind of a moment. It was very exciting. I do think that especially Lady Macbeth was almost a little too understated for my taste. Like, because everything else was so big. And then I was like, did she do the outdam spot? Oh, yeah, I guess she did. It was just kind of a little bit, it was interesting.
I think I've seen too many versions where it's like, what are you chewing the scenery in like a
yeah,
5,000 seat amphitheater? So I get what you mean. Like I totally understand what you mean, Rachel. I think I've had the opposite experience where I've been like, whoo, okay. And there was almost something about the breakdown, the out dam spot that was like, oh, she ain't okay. In like a way that she can't even express it. So
yeah.
that was I know what you're saying. I think I've seen it pushed to a 10 beyond a 10. So I was like, okay, good.
Well, then the next day we saw Steel Magnolias, and this is what I would call like a sure thing play. I was thinking of maybe doing a whole episode down the road of OnStage blog podcast on this topic, because I do feel like there's certain plays that are just winners. They're just hard to screw up. They're so well written. And I would say Steel Magnolias is in there. I would say Harvey's in there. I would say See How They Run is in there. I would say, there's just certain plays that really are really smart for community theaters, and in this case professional theaters, to do. They're just entertaining. And I think Still Magnolias is in that camp. It's just a really, really good little play, in my opinion. And they did a great job. All the actors, they had such good chemistry, which is the key for this play. You have to believe these women are friends and that they care about each other. And then the script will do the work almost if you can get that chemistry. It's really important. But I this was my favorite of the festival. I really thought it was effective. What do you think, Jax?
Yeah, this was really, really powerful and beautiful. I mean, I am more than anything, when I go to see things, whether it's film, TV, theater, I think the thing that I'm particularly interested right now is in like the bonds of female friendship. Um, and getting to see these women create this community in this hair salon, and then like the you're even thinking like generationally speaking, like what does it mean to be a mom? What does it mean to be a daughter? What does it mean to be a friend? Like what does all this stuff mean? And then we just have these performances that are absolutely like incredible. Like Malin holding it together, but then
That
having this
final speech she
breakdown.
gives.
Oh my goodness. Like, oh my goodness. Like, and all the women I felt like were so connected and emotionally available and vulnerable. Like,
Yeah,
I mean, this was just beautiful and a slam dunk. And also for as emotional as it is and as sad as it is, it's funny. It's really,
yeah,
really
it's really
funny. So
funny.
yeah,
Yeah.
this was fantastic.
What did you think about this production, Elena? What stood out to you?
Uh, I I love all the things you guys are saying. I think one thing that fascinates me is that it's this story that's very much grounded on women's experiences and women's stories. And for me, it feels so impactful because I don't know. I remember helping my mom audition for a production of this, and I was helping her film a self-tape, and she was doing Malin's end monologue, and I was like there staring at her, and I was like, oh my gosh, a little too close to home.
Yeah.
It like taps into those really universal human emotions, but particularly the way like those emotions are not like even. We feel laughter and humor and grief all at the same time, and sometimes in the same way and in the same moment. And we can be crying and laughing and not sure which emotion we're even feeling, because that's just how our bodies process. And I think this play does such a good job of both exploring that and allowing people to experience that in the audience. Like the amount of people who come out crying is epic. But then they're also like laughing, chuckling, and there are jokes that you'll continue to like use and throw into your day-to-day language. So that's something that I really, really love about
Yeah.
that. And I think Robert Harling captures it so well. Probably because it's really personal to him. He wrote it
Mhm.
about his sister, Susan, who her life mirrors Shelby's like pretty much to a T. From the armadillo cake at the wedding to her choice to have a child to her death at the end. So he's capturing real people and real voices that he knew, and I think
Mhm.
that's what makes it feel really impactful.
Yeah. Then, so the next day we saw, or later that night, sorry, that night we saw Antony and Cleopatra. And this, in my opinion, some people in our group were frustrated because they felt like it wasn't strong enough, Cleopatra, that she was a little lovesick and just a little bit weak. But I had fun with the campiness of it. I didn't feel like it was trying to make her a girl boss. I felt like it was trying to be kind of campy and erotic. Like I said, the Harlequin of Shakespeare. That's kind of how I felt about it. And it was something I'd never seen before and really knew almost nothing about. And I know almost nothing about Cleopatra or Antony. So I enjoyed it. I thought it was fun. What do you think, Jax?
I had a lot of fun with this one. I got into a very lively debate
Yeah.
in the post-show discussion with someone who was talking about um, this person, and I totally understood this perspective too, of course. Big fan of Cleopatra, kind of like what Rachel's saying. And I'm like, yeah, but this isn't just called Cleopatra. It's Antony and Cleopatra. And something that you said, this is not just like talking about her as the ruler. In fact, it's about their relationship. And I think that something that was said in the post-show discussion the next day at the Grove that even more made me feel like that the intention of the playwright was very clear with this, as well as this production, is that this isn't like lauding them as incredible rulers or people. Because I was like laughing after and being like, well, Antony's such a F boy. Ew, he's so gross. He's a party boy. But it's like, yeah, yeah. And this is them behind the curtain. And guess what? They're messes, but they're sexy messes. It's a lot of fun, but also like, don't trust your rulers. And
Yeah.
that's why it came together for me
I
even
guess for
more in
me,
the show
it's
discussion.
it'd be kind of like if I put on Disney's Hercules. I'm not expecting a gritty, realistic depiction of real life and the Greek real life. I mean, it's campy, it's silly, it's over the top, So you kind of, I don't know. I think your expectations go a long way with something like
And what
this.
I do want to say is that the final monologue that Cleopatra delivered, I mean, that it will be forever in my head as like just one of the most brilliant things I've seen on stage. So like even if I feel like even if people were like the rest of it's a mess, this is a crazy Shakespeare play. I don't like what they did with this. I'm like, yeah, but like even if you didn't like the rest of it, that was like chef's kiss work. So yeah. What do you think about this one, Elena? Because I know that this one isn't done as much.
No, and I mean I totally get why. But I have such an affinity for it now. I think what you said about the language is so true. Like there is just some gorgeous language in this play, and I think our actors do a phenomenal job of delivering it. Um, and it's so fun that I love the way you mentioned like all these people who make these comments about like, well, that's not the like Antony or the Cleopatra I expect and I want. And they don't like the production because of that. And I kind of don't mind that because I think that's like unknowingly that's the point. Like they
Yeah.
are falling into the exact reaction Shakespeare was sort of egging people on for. Because these
Hmm.
were mythic figures already in Shakespeare's day, and now I think we have that like Elizabeth Taylor association with like the beauty and grace and regality of Cleopatra. And Antony is this heroic figure who we associate with Julius Caesar and those speeches he gives. But they're, like you said, they're hot messes in this play. And Shakespeare is very intentionally subverting those expectations. He writes them as immature. Like he's already written to circle back to Romeo and Juliet. He's already written Romeo and Juliet, and he knows how to write a mature love, and he writes that in his teenagers. He does not write that into these middle-aged characters because they're kind of living in this false reality of thinking they're still at like the height of their power and the height of their prowess when they're not anymore. And
Well, that was interesting. They said last year at one of the seminars that the most of the examples of young love in Shakespeare are he's very kind of cynical about it. You know, with Ophelia and Hamlet, Hero and Claudio, Romeo and Juliet. You know, it doesn't end well for or it's a rough road. You know, for these whereas like somebody like Benedict and Beatrice, more mature, is like seen as sort of better, you know, by which makes sense given his life history with Shakespeare. So that's interesting.
yeah, I think that's a super like interesting point.
Mm-hmm.
And then this is definitely like later in his career, so I almost wonder if he's like starting to complicate that in his own brain.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know.
Well,
Yeah,
so
it's been really interesting.
the next day we saw Dear Jack and Dear Louise. And this was a bit of a struggle bus to get our tickets for this because we'd originally signed up for Gentleman's Guide. But most of us wanted to see something new that we hadn't seen before. And so we were able to finally get our tickets switched. And we saw Dear Jack, Dear Louise, this just a 2-person play. Ken Ludwig, I guess the actual was Ken Ludwig's Dear Jack and Dear Louise.
Mm.
And and this was very sweet. You know, both Jax and I have a Hallmark background, so this was kind of right in our, I think, wheelhouse. You know, this really cute little rom-com. What did you think of it, Jax?
Yeah, I mean, I actually haven't seen Gentleman's Guide. And while I do love musicals, I'm always someone that if you have me choose between a musical and a black box, like I'm a black box girly. So getting to see, and I thought it was very interesting that these two actors are married in real life. I
Yeah,
love
that was fun.
like behind the scenes story. And I mean, this was really beautiful. And I love Ken Ludwig, but I wasn't familiar with this. And honestly, the ride that I went on, like I did not know where it was going. And just loved it. I laughed, I
Yeah.
cried. Like truly, it was such a beautiful show. I'm so glad because I would like to see Gentleman's Guide. If I could have seen every show, I would have. But I am so happy that we made the choice to see this with this cast.
It was most people in our group's favorite show of the 6 the people that did see all 6, including that it was most of their favorites.
Yeah.
Wow, that's so fun. I love that. And it was a late addition to the season too, because
Yeah.
that block space is so hard for those who know the nitty-gritties of theater contracting. It has to be a separate work contract because it's such a smaller theater size. So initially we were going to take a little pause this year on doing shows in that theater space, but people were so sad. And so our artistic director, I think, crunched some numbers and tried to listen to people's feedback. And this is a good one because he and his wife could be in it. It's a small, you can use it using mostly costumes you have, props you have, etc. So it can be manageable from a budget perspective while still packing a big emotional punch. Yeah. One of my favorite things that happens in response to it is we just end up getting so many stories and personal experiences from folks in the Seminar Grove who either they communicated with their partner for some time this way, like even I got really sentimental watching the show because my current partner and I, like, there was a period of time where we were communicating only by letter, and it like rebuilt our relationship. And so it was so sentimental, like hearing that. And then folks who are currently going through their parents' letters from World War II. And so I think it ends up packing a personal punch for a lot of folks.
Yeah. So then the last show that we saw is As You Like It. And this one for me, I think maybe I've seen it one other time, but I don't have a strong memory of it. And the only thing about it that was maybe a little bit surprising to me is I just thought it was going to be funnier. It's not that it wasn't funny, but I thought it was going to be like uproarious, like 12th Night or Much Ado. But to me, it was more of like chuckle funny, not like uproarious funny, if that makes sense. I think it's very similar to Midsummer. I feel like they both were getting lost in the forest, and they both have kind of, these kind of things. And so I would say I like it better than Midsummer because I'm just not a big fan of the mechanicals. Like that whole section is just like, what is this here? But overall, I did enjoy it. It just wasn't quite as funny as I was expecting. What do you think, Jax?
Someone else in our group said something about that it was more like delightful laughter, like rather than like applause. I mean, for me, I found it really funny. I thought it was funnier than the As You Like It's I've seen. As I mentioned, I think it was funnier than the one I was in. Also, I also think I think it also really started off with a bang because what was that wrestling scene? Oh my good Lord. I was screaming. It was so funny and it's so like wild.
The only thing that was a bummer about the wrestling scene is where I was seated, there were two actors that completely blocked my view. I could barely see it. So that was a bummer. They were sitting there, and then the wrestling scene was there.
I just would have set them on the floor next to the Rock, like right there. But I also thought Kaylin, I mean, look, Rosalind,
she was really
is
good.
The heart and soul of this play, and Kaylin like knocked it out of the park. And I think also just the second act for me gets so zany. Like, if ever I marry a woman, I will marry you and you'll be married. Like, it is so funny to me. And it's like a roller coaster going down the hill, and you're like, what's gonna happen? But we know that it's gonna be like a happy ending because we know this one's a happy ending, but you're still so excited. Yeah, for me, I was just like, I will say I'm so glad the orchestration of the way we did the shows, I'm very grateful for because I think I was a little bit bummed that the weekend was going to be over. And I think it was much better for me to end on As You Like It than like Macbeth, even though they were both great. But yeah, I mean, this whole show tickled me. I thought it was so much fun. And I thought I got to really see, and probably because I'm looking for these things more now, but also because of the two actresses and the director, Celia and Rosalind's bond and their sisterhood came through so strong in this production. Like probably even stronger than The Love with Orlando. But what I also thought was fun was that with the way Kaylin played it, like I saw her really being like, oh, he's in ways that are different than Rosalind. Like sometimes she wasn't good at managing how hot he was. And
and he
Rosalind
was very, they nailed it with the casting.
Rosalind wasn't good at it, but I was like, oh, Kaylin, this is brilliant. So I was really in on As You Like It. Pretty hardcore.
Yeah.
I love that. The wrestling is crazy. I remember sitting in the rehearsal room when they were doing like running either that act or doing a designer run or something. And so you're like right there. There's like maybe a table in between you and them. And I was like, I'm a very reactive audience member too. So I was like fully like, oh, and it's like, oh, they're crazy. They're crazy. But I promise they're also like super safe every single night and all that jazz. But I love this place so much. I think particularly the relationships, again, I'm just like a connection girly, and the nuances of the relationship, this one, there have been productions of As You Like It I've seen where it's really hard to root for all the couples at the end. And like Touchstone and Audrey has some tricky language that's like pretty misogynistic. And
Mhm.
Sylvius and Phoebe can be really complicated from a like contemporary consent perspective. So the fact that they were able to navigate that both within the cutting of it and within the acting and portrayal of it and the staging and all that is just, I love every single one of those relationships now. And I think that's one thing that I just adore about this production.
Yeah.
That's a good point that sometimes I think Audrey and Touchstone, like it can feel like it just gross. You know what I mean? Like you're like, oh, what's happening here? I have to ask you, as an actor, Elena, what role right now, like at your age now in this show would you like to play?
I think I'm too short to play Rosalind. I think I
They
would
make
say
so many
Celia.
references to her being tall that I'd kind of forgotten about, but yeah.
I mean, I think Rosalind's amazing, but that's okay. I honestly think Celia, like, I don't know that she's someone who I paid attention to when I was just reading through the play, but Kat Lee's portrayal of her, she is just, she's so agentic. She's the one who comes up with the plan to go into the forest. She's the one who initiates it. She's the one who pulls Rosalind out of these slums, and then she's just silent for so much of the second half. And so that like actor challenge of figuring out how you navigate that, I think would be really fascinating. I think Kat does a really good job being this sort of almost audience POV as the observer when Rosalind is being so silly and so in love, but then sometimes also like having some internalized misogyny and like starts talking about women in like a really complicated way. And Celia, I think, is the character who can, even though she doesn't have lines to say it very much, she's the one who can call that out through her reactions.
Well, before we go, do you want to give like a little 1 minute spiel for people who might be still going to the festival, why they should check out The Gentleman's Guide since we didn't get to see that production?
Yes, you guys did miss out. It is such a fun production. It is just, if you like Macbeth and you like ambition and murder and those angsty stories, and then if you like Ernest, you're like, I like high comedy, British farcy energy. It is like the love child between those two vibes. um,
And they have a
it's really,
good dice quiz, right? Because that's the key to that show. If you get
yes.
a good dice quiz.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yeah. You have your one actor who is playing all these Dice with family members who get knocked off in absolutely ridiculously, wonderfully theatrical ways. And I'll just say this, like the vocals, they are insane. I just sometimes like go and sit in like the back of the house so I can just hear some of the vocals and the singing, and it's a really beautiful ensemble piece too. So everyone is highlighted well and is putting their all in. Check it out.
Well,
Go check it out, everybody.
well, real quick. So next year they have Troilus and Cressida, Hamlet, Twelfth Night, Something Rotten, See How They Run, She Loves Me, Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, and the book club play. So out of those, Jax, which one are you most intrigued by?
Hamlet and the book club play.
Mm-hmm. And which one are you looking forward to most, Elena?
I'm looking forward to Troilus and Cressida because I have never seen it, and it's the second to last play we have in our Complete the Canon cycle. So I'm excited for that. I know, right? And then also the two in the Ains. Yeah, the book club play and Frankenstein. I am just so excited for and fascinated by. And the Frankenstein is really centered on Mary Shelley, so I love a good little feminist reinterpretation of classic literature.
I love See How They Run. I love Twelfth Night, but She Loves Me is one of my all-time faves.
Oh yeah.
So I'm very, very excited to see that. I think it's a perfect show. Songs are great. The story's great. It's awesome. So that'll be really fun. But thank you so much, Lena, for coming and doing this. We really appreciate it. This was a blast. And we had such a good time at the festival. It was so much fun. And thanks to everybody at Utah Theater Lovers, all your hard work and putting that all together. And yeah, it was just, I'm so glad that it worked out, that Jax was able to come down, because it seemed like everything was working against it, but it ended up being a very memorable, I'll never forget it. It was a great trip. And
it was such an incredible trip. Thank you, Elena, for, everything that you do to make the festival thrive. I can't wait to come back.
so
Yeah,
Lena, if people want to follow you, social media, things like that, how do they do that?
Yeah, sure. I've got Instagram. It's just elena.mellon and a website, elenamellon.com. So nice and easy peasy. And come to the festival and say hi to me in the Seminar Grove. I am always out there, so you will see me.
And Jax, how can people find you?
Jacqueline Collier on Instagram.
Great. And you can find me at Rachel's Reviews, all over social media, and at rachelsreviewstheater.com. I'll have my recap of the whole festival on there as well. So take a look at that. Make sure you check out OnStage blog for all of our daily articles that we put up there. Some really good stuff. And follow us on all the socials as well. If you're listening on iTunes, please leave your ratings and reviews. If you are watching on YouTube, please give the video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. We appreciate that so much. Check out all of our episodes on tons of fun theater topics. And thanks so much, everybody. We'll talk to you later. Bye.
Bye.